You know what? There's always a war when a new Vivo X series phone comes into the office. Why? Because cameras, of course, the X series phones have excellent cameras and they're very impressive. But this year, things are slightly different, primarily because the X200 Pro, while it has launched, it is going up against a formidable opponent, which is the OPPO FIND X8 Pro. And this is definitely a competition that I was looking forward to because they're very similar in terms of the features they offer, the specs they have, the kind of experience that you can get, and even the price. So let's get right down to it, the battle of the Android flagship pros. Watch it till the end because I'm sure that you will definitely have a clear answer to your question on which one of these phones should you buy. Hi, I'm Arshad. You're watching Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. So it goes without saying that the X200 Pro looks and feels premium, and I like it. And now if you feel like you've seen this somewhere before, that's because, the circular camera module is very popular with BBK. You've seen it on the X100 Pro, the X100 Ultra, the X200 Pro, the OnePlus 13, the FIND X8 Pro as well. But the circular camera module actually varies in size and in position, and the one that Vivo has is a chunky boy. So it takes up a large portion of the rear, and when you place it on a table, it feels like it's being elevated by some mobile stand. So that's there. So if you place it, like if you place the FIND X8 Pro right next to it, it's flatter. Although since it's symmetrically aligned, there's no table wobble as such, it sits firm, so that's not a problem. Now in comparison to the X200 Pro, the FIND X8 Pro's camera module of course is slimmer, and when you actually place them side by side, and if you see it, then you feel that the FIND X8 Pro is slimmer overall as well. But honestly, in terms of slimness, both are very similar. But most importantly, what improves the in-hand ergonomics of the X8 Pro is the fact that this phone is actually lighter than the X200 Pro. Now because of the way both of these are designed, I expected the X200 Pro to be slightly more top-heavy compared to the FIND X8 Pro. But interestingly, the FIND X8 Pro is actually top-heavy and kind of topples compared to the X200 Pro. So the weight distribution has been done well on Vivo compared to OPPO. Now for durability, OPPO actually uses the mid-range Gorilla Glass 7i for protection on the front and the rear, whereas Vivo uses Armor Glass, which is its very own solution. And the sides are of course made of aluminium on both. Now both the phones also do have some similarities. For example, you get an infrared blaster on both. You also get a USB Type-C Gen 3.2 as well. There's also support for IP68 rating and IP69 rating on both. Now a lot of people are wondering, why are we saying IP68 and 69 separately? Because they're not a subset of each other. The IP69 rating is slightly different from IP68 rating. I'll give you a handy guide to explain the differences in the description. Go check it out. Now that's about the in-hand feel and ergonomics, but OPPO does have a couple of distinctive advantages in the design, which is the fact that you get an alert slider and the camera button. These are genuinely useful in a pinch, especially in a camera phone like the FIND X8 Pro. It does come in handy to have a camera button. I would have expected something like that on the Vivo X200 Pro as well. So overall, when you look at design, utility, compactness, and just the whole build, I think OPPO is better than Vivo slightly. You know what? The display experience on both these phones are really similar. I found it very difficult to tell the two apart. So you get the same display specs. There's AMOLED. It's a 6.78-inch display. You get 120Hz LTPO panel, support for Dolby Vision, and 4500 nits of peak brightness when you're watching HDR content. The one thing that really stunned me on both is the color tuning, because you get professional color tuning and the Delta E is so low that you can actually trust it for edits. And if you look at it side by side, the color accuracy is nearly identical on both. Now since the color tuning is so similar, I expected the HDR tuning to be slightly different, but that's not really the case. The only thing that we noticed is that Vivo's display has slightly brighter specular highlights, but that's not something that most people will notice until and unless you see these displays side by side. When you take these displays outdoors, they both are equally bright, but technically, Vivo is slightly brighter because you get 1800 nits in HBM mode as opposed to 1600 nits on OPPO. By the way, both these phones also offer 2160Hz of PWM dimming. So if you're somebody who is sensitive to low light flicker on the display because of high refresh rate, then that shouldn't be a problem on both these phones, which is fantastic. And that's definitely better than Apple, Google, and Samsung. And they should definitely take notes from brands originating out of China. The one real advantage on the X200 Pro, which might not seem like a big advantage, is the fact that the X200 Pro can actually go down to 0.1 Hz as opposed to 1 Hz on most other smartphone displays that we've tested. And there's one other major advantage of this 0.1 Hz display, which I will get to in a bit, so stay tuned. The other advantage on the X200 Pro is that you get a proper ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner, which means that it can also unlock with wet fingers. Make all the wet finger jokes that you want in the comment section. Now, the Find X8 Pro has the optical in-display fingerprint scanner, which is fast to unlock, no problem, but the position of the Find X8 Pro's fingerprint scanner is actually lower than what I would have liked. One thing I must definitely mention, which I forgot to mention, is the fact that the position of the volume rocker and the power button is also slightly higher than what I would have liked on the Find X8 Pro. Vivo actually does it better. Having said that, the OPPO Find X8 Pro has tighter haptic feedback with OHaptics compared to Vivo. Actually, I expected the vivo X200 Pro to have the same kind of haptic feedback, the fantastic haptic feedback that I was getting as the iQOO 13, but actually the iQOO 13 for a lower price is doing it better. Now, OPPO also supports the LHDC codec, which Vivo does not, but both these phones also support LDAC, which is nice. However, when we tested out the speakers side by side, the stereo speaker setup on Vivo gets louder and richer. Take a listen to it for yourself and let me know what you guys think. Alright, now when you talk about the performance on both these phones, Vivo is definitely conservatively tuned compared to the Find X8 Pro. So the Dimensity 9400 inside Vivo actually scores lower than the Find X8 Pro, both in Antutu and in Geekbench. But the CPU stability was actually better on the vivo X200 Pro. However, with the 3D Mark test, it actually pushes for performance. Now, if you're playing a game like Genshin Impact, then both of these perform very similarly because we got an average FPS of about 59.9 on Vivo and 59.7 on OPPO. And both these phones didn't even touch 40 degrees, which is fantastic because both of these can run cool. Essentially, even in my daily, everyday testing, what I noticed is that the OPPO Find X8 Pro and the vivo X200 Pro both don't get very hot. The temps don't go beyond 43, 44 degrees. Also, it's like a very nice pleasant weather here in Pune, so it's very difficult to get them hot either. Even in the summers, I think it will go up to 43, 44 and then it'll start throttling. Now you must be wondering, why is Vivo so conservative in the tuning? Of course, there's iQOO that exists, but more importantly, Vivo's conservative in tuning because it has absolutely mind-blowing battery life. You know how I'd mentioned that the Find X8 Pro has fantastic battery life? Well, it does. I got 8.5 hours of screen on time on moderate usage and 8 hours on heavy usage. You know, Vivo actually does better than that. In heavy usage, I got 8.5 hours of screen on time, and in moderate usage, I got 9 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. For my usage, this is the best battery life that I've gotten on any phone that I've tested here at Trakin English. And remember how I'd said 0.1 Hz is very, very important, and there's one more advantage to it, and that's this, the battery life improvements. Now, it's such quality of life improvements to tech that I genuinely enjoy, so good job, Vivo. Now, talking about charging speeds, you've got 80-watt charging support, wired charging support on OPPO, and 90-watt on Vivo. And Vivo takes about 45 minutes for a full charge, 46 minutes to be precise, and OPPO takes about 1 hour at the dot. But wireless charging speeds are faster at 50 watt on OPPO compared to 30 watt on Vivo, for which you will have to buy the wireless chargers separately. Now, both these phones are also meant for the global market, so 5G performance is top class, nothing to complain about. The call quality is incredible on both. Again, I don't have anything to report on it. Plus, you get support for Wi-Fi 7, you get support for Bluetooth 5.4, NFC, everything that you want is there. Now, I have to be real about the software experience on both these phones. Now, while FunTouch OS 15 has improved by leaps and bounds, it's still no match for ColorOS 15 if you ask me. Now, before I tell you the reason why, another advantage on ColorOS, or at least the Find X8 Pro, is the fact that OPPO is promising 5 plus 6 years of updates as opposed to 4 plus 5 on the vivo X200 Pro. 4 plus 5 is also good, but 5 plus 6 is better. Now for my reasons why ColorOS 15 is better. First things first, it has smoother animations and faster animations. It's actually the best animation tuning that we've seen on a software this year. In fact, there's a lot of design coherence that you can see across the system where, for example, take a look at the quick settings panel. Compared to FunTouch OS 15, this is definitely more modern looking and better. There are also tiny things. For example, FunTouch OS 15 doesn't give you the option to change the icon packs, which this one does. In fact, ColorOS 15 has a lot of AI features, some of which are there. For example, the photo editing stuff like the fact that you can erase objects, all of that is there and both work exceptionally well. But ColorOS 15 also has writing tools, which the FunTouch OS does not. That's not it. ColorOS also has, iPhone's live activities ported over here, which FunTouch does not. Again, there are newer, fresher things in ColorOS compared to FunTouch OS. Now, I'm not getting into more detail about this. If you guys actually want a detailed video comparing FunTouch OS 15 to ColorOS 15, do let me know in the comments. In fact, I think we should do that on the upcoming mid-range phones that come from OPPO and Vivo. I think that'd be better. Now, I know very well that I've made you wait a long time to talk about the cameras. Well, let's get down to it. Now with the vivo X200 Pro, I know that a lot of people were disappointed with the fact that you do not have a 1-inch sensor now like the X100 Pro, and it has been replaced by the Sony Litia 818, which is a 1x1.28-inch sensor with a stacked CMOS sensor, which is also very good, by the way. Now what Vivo has done instead is that it's brought over the periscope camera from the X100 Ultra to the X200 Pro. So this is a Samsung HP9 1x1.4-inch sensor, and it's a 200MP sensor, and I'll tell you how it shoots, and it's fantastic, trust me. But before that, let's talk about the primary sensor on both. The X200 Pro definitely captures more details and better sharpness than the Find X8 Pro. 100% zoom will show you the difference clearly. Now HDR tuning is definitely good on both. Vivo now does on-sensor HDR, which is very good, and therefore what I noticed is that the specular highlights are better, plus that V3 Plus chip is definitely coming in handy. And you can notice the differences clearly when you're viewing the photos side by side on an HDR display. More importantly, Vivo's on-sensor HDR is better when shooting people against the light, because the tone mapping HDR bloom issue around the face on the Find X8 Pro is actually not present here. Now with respect to colors that you can capture, Vivo has 3 options. By default it captures in vivid, but then you got Zeiss Natural, and there's the textured mode as well. I was using Zeiss Natural for the most part. And here's the difference between the Zeiss Natural picture and the vivid picture, and you can see that the reds are slightly boosted here, right? But now take a look at these pictures, comparing the Zeiss Natural to the regular, color mode of OPPO, and you can see different shades of reds and oranges in the books, Killing It and Life Ceremony. Well, Vivo has captured it absolutely accurately compared to OPPO. In fact, Vivo's vivid mode is so damn similar to OPPO's regular color capture. Now the color sense consistency between the ultrawide and the primary is largely accurate on both, but sometimes I did notice some color shift between the primary and the periscope on both. It can be fixed with an OTA though. Vivo also nails the skin tones compared to OPPO here, which is a bit of a reddish hue, and it is slightly warmer as well. Now while I like OPPO's portrait shots, Vivo does it better in terms of skin tones, details and edge detection as well. It's true whether you're shooting at 23mm, 50mm, 85mm or 135mm. The portraits are just incredible, and the X200 Pro has 85mm HD portraits for even better details. Plus you've got so many Zeiss simulations, so yeah, it's evident. Low-light pictures have more details on the X200 Pro, especially around the darker shadow portions of the image, and it pulls in more light as well. My only problem with the X200 Pro is the fact that the night mode is not a night mode anymore. They've actually moved it to the landscape mode, which is kind of confusing. In fact, Vivo's app itself could have been slightly better laid out, if you ask me. Now, ultra-wide quality from the 50MP camera on both is largely similar in terms of details, but OPPO's is slightly wider. But Vivo's night processing once again with the ultra-wide pulls in a win by pulling in slightly more details. Now, unlike the primary, Vivo's selfie camera skin tones are not pitch perfect. In fact, OPPO's slightly better here, but detail retention is largely similar on both. Even the selfie portraits and the selfie HDR are equally good looking on both. Now for the low-light selfies, and when I started comparing the two, things got a little interesting. Primarily because Vivo's AI Extreme Night Mode continues to oil paint faces, and it makes it look very artificial. I really hope that Vivo can take this feedback and just abolish that AI Extreme Night Mode. Is terrible. But without night mode, Vivo's photos don't get as bright as OPPO, but it looks more natural. In fact, you can even capture selfie portraits with the same natural details, so much so that I would actually take Vivo's photos over OPPO's when it comes to selfie low light pictures. Alright, now time to talk about zoom, and again, things are very, very interesting here. Primarily because the 2x crops on Vivo are sharper and more detailed. At 3x, OPPO takes a clear win because Vivo uses the primary camera to crop in 3x, and it is very blurry. At 3.7x, Vivo is sharper. Even at 6x, where I expected OPPO's proper optical 6x lenser to do better, Vivo is beating it. It's actually better than OPPO. You see how a larger sensor comes in handy even when you crop in? Yeah, that's where Vivo's done a fantastic job with the periscope camera. At 7.4x again, Vivo is better. Basically, until 10x, Vivo is just very, very sharp. Now things start changing when you zoom in further at 20x and above. For example, 20x and 60x are the shots that I took. OPPO uses the help of artificial intelligence to sort of add in details, and therefore pictures do look better and sharper compared to Vivo. Having said that, they actually look artificial compared to Vivo. Alright, what about low light zoom? Well, Vivo is clearly better at any zoom level in low light except for the 3x. Yeah, because the 3x it's using the primary camera to zoom in. By the way, here's a shot of the moon from Vivo and OPPO. This is actually like Sachin Tendulkar batting and Javagal Srinath batting. You see what I mean, right? Now macro is incredible on both, but at closer macro levels, Vivo beats OPPO. Video recording is fantastic again on both. Both can shoot 4K 60fps videos, but Vivo does have better stabilization, a higher bitrate video recording and better sound recording, giving it an edge over OPPO. This is also true for the ultra-wide and the selfie camera, all of which can shoot at 4K 60fps from the 3 cameras. Zoom quality is also smoother on Vivo, plus you get sharper details at long-range zoom video, which was expected. Again, if you take a look at the low light video quality, of course, Vivo is better than Oppo. Plus, Vivo can now shoot 4K cinematic portrait videos at 4K 30 FPS, which Oppo can do only at 1080p 30 FPS. Again, the quality is better. This is both the primary camera and the periscope camera. And here's something very, very interesting. The vivo X200 Pro can shoot 10-bit log video. Now, this 10-bit log video has the same file format as the Sony Alpha cameras, which means that if you have a workflow which includes the Sony Alpha cameras, and if you shoot with the vivo X200 Pro, and if you export that into the timeline, then your color grading, all of the presets and the LUTs that you use will have a similar match. It's going to be such a godsend for the editors in our office because, they have a tough time matching the iPhone's log footage to the Alpha camera's log footage. Alright, so if you look at it, technically Vivo is better than Oppo at camera performance, but I expected Vivo to comprehensively beat Oppo, but that's not happening. Oppo did give it a tough fight. The more I use Vivo phones, it feels like Vivo is the company that keeps pushing the industry forward. Not just with smartphone advancements, but also with stuff like the 0.1 Hz display, right? And of course, the X200 Pro is more of that, and I love it. I actually love the experience of using this phone. I can easily recommend it to anybody who wants a great camera experience. But if you're okay with a good camera experience and a great software experience compared to Find X8 15, then I think the Find X8 Pro makes sense for you. So you know what? I can't really pick one phone as the winner because it'll be doing disservice to the other one. And if you're still forcing me to pick one, then I would probably have to pick the vivo X200 Pro and use it as my primary phone, fighting off all my colleagues who want it. Alright, so that's it from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.